Hey guys, Toxic here with a storytime interlude with the Bile and Blood campaign. Seb has posted his videos on the Vicissicrues and his Fermenters, so I thought I would shed some light on some of the other characters in the Bile and Blood campaign. Obviously, we don't need to know about the Space Wolves because Space Wolves are Space Wolves. We do have Sven Stormslayer, and right now he's just kind of filling the role of the Space Wolf Commander, Wolfguard Battle Leader. So we don't really have too much information on him, and he may or may not show up in the future. But two characters that are ones that I've been working on and have a special place for me, on the table and in the lore that we're kind of building here, and that's Inquisitor Corvus Rixz and Shae Vex. Now, we have Inquisitor Corvus. He's from the Automelius. He's a demon hunter. He's spent his entire career as an Inquisitor, as a demon hunter. Very young age, he was actually in the retinue of an Inquisitor, and he's basically his whole life he's been dealing with demons, and to him it's an art form to perfect, to banish demons, to track demons. He's very much a perfectionist, and any mistake, any loss hits him very hard. Where he's at now in the timeline, he's very old for an Inquisitor, even more so for an Inquisitor that still goes into battle. He is aided by his Terminator armor. He does have a set of Terminator armor that he does take into battle with him, which does definitely help out as his body is starting to fail him. Of course, he does still keep up with treatments and cybernetics and all that stuff to kind of keep him in the fight. So yeah, he has a Terminator armor. He rocks in with a Thunder Hammer and a Psy Cannon. I think I actually have his model that I made. Just scoot over here and grab it. I actually did make a model of him a little while ago. I don't know how well this is gonna kind of come up, but there he is there. Obviously this is made out of a Grey Knight kit and also some Dark Angel stuff. There you go. So there's his nice cape, his Thunder Hammer, a Psy Cannon. And yeah, so he goes into battle very prepared, and the reason for that is because he needs to be able to, in his mindset, he needs to be able to handle everything. He does deal with Grey Knights. He has a retinue. He deals with other aspects. Like obviously he does have the resources to make other people fight his fights, but in his mind he doesn't want to. He'll take people along with him to help him, but in his mind he needs to be able to take on basically everything. So if a greater demon shows up, he has to go in there with a fighting chance. It's gotten him into trouble before, but he has also created a good name for himself, and people know him as a man that can get a job done and can get it finished. This is to say that he doesn't have enemies. One of those enemies is an Inquisitor for the Order of Xenos, and it was a rivalry. It was a kind of friendship where they kind of worked in tandem for if they were on something about demons, and there was a Xenos presence. The first person that he would get would be this Xenos Inquisitor. Right now he's nameless, as I don't have a name there for him. But so it started off kind of friendly. Then it was more of a rivalry of who can make a better name for themselves, who can save those planets, whatever it was. It was trying to take it one step further, and then it the rivalry kind of turned darker, I guess, into more of being enemies. And this actually is where Shae Vex comes in. She was a promising, basically, Inquisitor acolyte. Or she had very strong psychic abilities. She was the target of both Corvus and the Inquisitor from the Xenos Inquisitor, and they both had their sights set on having her in the warband, or even training her as an Inquisitor to kind of take over their position. If they fall in battle or are no longer able to fight, or die. That was the goal. Both of these Inquisitors, Corvus and the other Inquisitor, they had they weren't so selfless when it came to why they were doing all this. Yes, their whole thing was to keep the Imperium, mankind, safe from Xenos, from demons, to help people, to make sure that that mankind does not fall. But they also had a very personal attachment to the feats that they were doing. They were all about making a name for themselves. They didn't show off, but they were very much of they need to make a name for themselves, have a legacy. And a part of that was finding the right Inquisitor to take over from them and keep that legacy going. And both of them saw that in Shae Vex. What happened was they both were trying to make their cases with Shae Vex, and eventually she decided to join the Auto Xenos and fight against the Xenos threat. Corvus didn't take this very well, and since then the rivalry has been a little bit darker than a rivalry and more of enemies. And that will come back a little bit later. So Corvus never really took an apprentice after that. He works with he's not a loner. He doesn't really have anyone any close personal staff or anything like that, except for an acolyte called Desmond. Now Desmond's just a regular old human. He came from a hive planet in the Underhives. He wasn't in a gang or anything like that, but he was very he had the mindset of that he wanted to get up in the world and get out of the Underhive and make something with his life. And he came across Corvus when his planet actually had not a demonic incursion, but there was a demonic threat there, and he met up with Corvus, and one thing kind of led to another. Their personalities kind of clicked, and he just proved himself that he would be valuable. He's not super intelligent, but he has the mind of that. He's not super intelligent, but he has almost like a what's the word for it? Like a photographic memory. He's very good at remembering things. He's a very fast learner, and he's very attentive, and that's really what Corvus saw in him. That he could help him out, and Corvus, not being a young man anymore, took him on board as a personal favor to Desmond, but in all sense, it was much more of himself kind of getting help for himself, but he'll never admit that. So there's that. Corvus has he also has an attachment to spies and assassins that he actually creates himself. Part of his network of being able to find demonic incursions and demonic, presence is that he spends a lot of his, not necessarily free time, but a lot of his time in creating the perfect kind of agent. A spy, an assassin. He finds just unwanted nothing, like just people that have no family. They're not going to be missed. They don't offer anything to the world, whether they be just homeless, living in the slums, just a ganger in a hive. Basically, someone that's just not going to be missed, doesn't put anything to society, and he will take them. Not, not. He'll take them against their will. He doesn't give them a choice in the matter. And as an Inquisitor, that is kind of his right. So he will just take them, whether it be a good right or not. But he'll take them, and then he will, usually at a younger age, probably looking between, say, 12, 13 to not older than 21. Reason being is that once he takes them, he will then basically change their genetics, give them biotics, and whatever he needs to do to basically create the perfect spy, the perfect agent for his disposal. And he is a perfectionist, so he will work on one agent. If he doesn't get it right, he then will work on another one, and it's just become a making one better than the other. So all these assassins, agents, spies, they all have near to superhuman abilities in that sense. In fact, I wouldn't say better than a space marine, but they're heightened to that level where very similar to assassins of the assassins that the Inquisition does use. That to that level. Once he's created them, he will then send them to a planet that he may have an inkling that there is going to be a demonic threat to. They may have already had a demonic threat, or it may just be a random planet. At that point, he doesn't care. He's created them, and that's kind of where he gets his enjoyment from, is the creation. The application is an afterthought. Some of his agents will spend their entire lives doing nothing except for trying to live an ordinary life. He'll put them in a not necessarily a position of power, but he'll put them in a position where they can live a normal life on this planet, and kind of like a sleeper agent, when that planet becomes threatened by demonic powers, they get activated. Now, they know full well what's going on. It's not something that it's not a trigger that switches over. They understand what's going on, but they also understand that they can live a life until that happens. Many choose to start families and such. Many choose not to, because if something does happen, they don't want to lose that. But like I said, many of them do live their entire lives without having to deal with the threat. He does have his more special projects, the one that he deems the most perfect specimens that he's worked with. He'll actually keep them in like a status pods or chambers on his ship, and those will be the ones that he'll actually use when he's on a mission. Those are the ones that are specifically designed to be used for either assassination, scouting, whatever he has to use them for, and those are his like top tier that he keeps in status with him. The other ones, maybe with an imperfection here and there, those are the ones that he uses, basically just throwing them all out there and hoping that one, well, not necessarily hoping, because obviously it's a bad thing, but throwing them all out there and seeing which ones kind of catch that demonic incursion. So that's where he's kind of at. Shae Vex, she was she had a pretty much an ordinary, pretty much an ordinary life there. She was actually brought up on a planet made primarily for farming. It's like a Aji planet or whatever it's called there, but it's primarily for farming, so very rural. But she does have very strong psychic presence, and because of that, she attracted the Inquisition very early in her life. In fact, when she was very young, she actually killed her parents because of her psychic abilities at that point in time she couldn't control. So at that time, um, at that time, the Auto, I guess, Hereticus would usually be sent down to deal with that, or even just send in the black ships to come and take her. However, at that time, Corvus and his friend at that time, the Xenos Inquisitor, actually were nearby and were the closest ones to deal with that. Because it was a very big psychic kind of phenomenon that happened. It was something that had to be taken care of fairly quickly. So, seeing the potential in Shae Vex, they decided not to just kill her outright, as a lot of people would do. They decided to take her back and kind of train her. So, obviously they sent her off to the proper testings, make sure she was stable, making sure that was all well and good. And at that point, she was kind of not really necessarily given the choice, but whether it be paperwork or red tape, kind of the espionage of that kind of bureaucracy, whatever happened, she ended up going with the Xenos Inquisitor, and then spent a lot of time dealing with the Xenos threat. Most of it as an apprentice, using her psychic abilities to kind of as a, I guess like a radar, like to try and pinpoint threats, and just helping that Inquisitor until the Inquisitor actually was killed. Now this kind of event is it's very suspicious from his death, as someone says like an accident, or others would say that it was an assassination. A lot of fingers point at Corvus, knowing his affinity to using assassins and spies. Whether that's the case or not, only Corvus would know that. But either way, as soon as he found out about the death of the Xenos Inquisitor, he came to request that Shae Vex now be transferred to him to continue her basically being an apprentice under him now. At that point in time, she was pretty much to the stage of being an Inquisitor, so at that point she underwent the trials of actually becoming a full-blown Inquisitor herself, and that's actually what happened. So for the smallest period of time, she was actually an Inquisitor for the Auto Xenos, but now works with Corvus. So she does still have her knowledge, any weapons, any gear that she had working with the Auto Xenos, but she is now pretty much attached to Corvus and his dealings, so spending most of the times dealing with demonic presence, and she's actually found that her psychic abilities lend themselves very well at tracking down demons and being able to kind of hold them back. Corvus himself is a psyker, but not on the scale of Shae Vex. She was to the point where it would have been best to kill her just to stop her threat, but whether it being the hubris of Corvus and the other Inquisitor deciding that they wanted that power to themselves, they decided to keep her, but where most Inquisitors would have ended her quickly to stop that threat. So that's kind of where it's at in the story right now. Corvus is basically an old man that's still trying to do what he's always done, and that's fight demons. Has many spies, agents, assassins on planets across the universe, and has Shae Vex with him, who is also an Inquisitor that actually has an affinity for psychic powers, and is very good at dealing with Xenos threats. So together they kind of do work well together. Um, and that's kind of where we're at right now. In the Theoria campaign, they've come down to fight the Fermenters, not because of that chaos themselves, but because of the Vicissicrues that Seb's talked about, and dealing with that threat. Because if left alone, the Vicissicrues will just open a warp and basically demonic incursion as many demons as they can. So that's really the story right now on Corvus and Shae Vex. I'll probably put more in at later points in time. I'm probably gonna be doing more video about what we're kind of doing here, but I thought I'd kind of touch on this now. But basically, we want to have kind of like an Allies Index universe, just say. I mean, obviously it's a 40k universe, but we want our characters, our stories, our campaigns to kind of take place in our 40k universe, in a sense that if we do another campaign, characters may show up. If we do any like campaigns set before that, we could use characters from that. We have a system in our campaigns, if you haven't watched it, where main characters and minor characters can die and get taken out of the story because of that death. So depending on what's going on, we'll see how long Corvus can actually live for. Will Shae Vex even survive to be able to take over his spot? We don't know. But it's definitely something that we're gonna be working on. We'll be posting kind of like a master post of characters and battles they've fought in, links to videos that they've of the battle reports that they've fought in, storytime interludes about them. Maybe kind of not necessarily dates of when they've died, but kind of what they were doing when they died, and just kind of build up this our own kind of universe with our characters for our, and that's kind of what I'm really excited about. And it's been working great so far. This is the first campaign we've done, the Bile and Blood campaign, and Seb and myself have just had a blast with it. And yeah, it's super fun. So you can definitely expect to see more campaigns in the future, with some of the same characters, new characters. It's great. If you want to put your own input in, definitely contact us. Right now we're kind of keeping it to just allies that we're putting in our characters, but if you have ideas for characters, cool characters, cool campaign ideas or anything like that, send it to us, and you never know, we might use it, and that could be cool, kind of seeing your characters and whatnot show up in some of our battle reports. But yeah, that was our storytime interlude for Corvus Rixz and Shae Vex. Once again, my name's Toxic. Check out alliesindex.com for more geeky gaming goodness, and have a good one.